Hello and welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, here broadcasting to you live from emosocialclub.tv. I, every week, am Brian.
And I also, every week, unfortunately at sometimes, am Lizzie.
We are guestless this evening. Nobody ever asked to get onto the guest list podcast. What? How many letter T's were in that entire sentence that I just said?
What are you talking about?
I said guest
Are you trying
list.
are you trying to like regress into when we had to worry about guest lists?
Oh yeah. Oh, I am. Yeah, man. I always hated it, like asking to be on the guest list. And now I'm like, does anybody hate asking to be the guest on a podcast? Like, is that the new guest list right now? It's like you're not getting into a show for free, but maybe you can get on our podcast and talk for a little while. Maybe we should put it out there. Like, yo, hit us up if you want to get on the guest list.
The guests. Maybe we'll just have to vet you once we get to there, and then we'll be like, yes or no.
Yeah, you know, it's still got to check you at the door. We're on a new night. We are now streaming our podcast recordings on Thursday nights. Lizzie has a new work schedule. It kind of works out. It's kind of nice to do this a little bit later in the week, get some more separation between our podcast going up on Mondays and when we record it. So if you want to join us for the live recording, we have some guests coming up that are in the pipeline, and we'll see you then too. It sounded like I was ending the podcast. I don't know.
I was just about to say, I mean, we can say next week we're going to have our friend of the pod, James Shotwell, on here talking about a new podcast series that he's putting out. And he sent us some, I don't know if you listened to it, Brian, but I listened to one a couple nights ago that he sent a sample of the first episode of the series. And it was really good. It was very interesting.
Can you remind me what it's about? I know kind of, but just for our
it's about like mental health and substance abuse and like the music scene and like getting help and like, you know, being proactive about it.
Yeah. So that should be cool. I have not listened to it yet, but I will before we talk to him because I have to do my job.
You have to know what you're talking
about. As a college level podcast host.
You know, you could get a solid B-.
Hell yeah, dude. You know what? That's all that matters.
Listen, I was the D's get degrees when it came to math and science, and I'm all right.
Yeah, but F's don't, and that's what I got when I was in college. So,
sir,
I just disagree with the college system.
That's fair.
Our friend Peter in the chat says B for Brian, and that is correct.
Yeah.
On a spelling level.
On a spelling level.
On a spelling-based level. Yeah, so Thursdays will be our new night for our podcast recordings. Make sure to tune in next week to hear our chat with James, who was one of our first guests, maybe our first guest.
Yeah, one of our... probably like within our first 10 episodes.
Yeah, at least. Because I know
it'd be a big throwback. Because I was trying to think too. I'm like, it's been a while.
Yeah. Our first guest was Our Music, My Body, but then he was on pretty early up in the episode list. So go check him out on that if you go to Spotify and look at our old ones. Or Apple, wherever you go.
It seems like, because I was looking at our like Simplecast analytics today, just because, and
let's get into analytics on the pod.
The fact that our most downloaded is like our very first episode where we really had no idea what the fuck we were doing, so astonishes me. But then I see like the numbers kind of cascade down as we've gotten further, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
It's just like people keep going. Like I think Spotify organizes by the oldest first sometimes when I click on it. Yeah,
it does that to me too. I had to go in and like manually change it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense because for other podcasts, it doesn't do that.
Yeah, so make sure that you are sorting by the oldest episode last, the newest episode first, so that you know that you're getting the most up-to-date news and not.
Is that technically descending order, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think by oldest date would be by date order you would do ascending order, with the oldest date at the top and the newest date at the bottom. So it would be descending order of the newest date at that's some Excel shit. You don't need to hear about that on our not Excel podcast. Could be though, if anybody wants me to talk about Excel.
Yeah, Brian's your guy to talk about Excel formulas and programs. I can't do math, so
love them.
I can talk to you about other things. It's about it.
Love them. I lost my train of thought. It's great.
I'm so happy for you. Well, hello everyone. It's been a long week if you haven't been able to notice. And things have just progressively just gone at a steady state pace.
Yeah. I wish we had more like news stuff we wanted to talk about. Lizzie put out our broadcast this morning, so we already talked about a lot of the news there. I think the only thing that's like worth talking about is this Kanye situation, which I'm like, I don't want to give any credence to the issue. Like, I don't want to actually discuss it because it just doesn't seem authentic in any way. So, like, why would we give any credence to it as a real thing? I don't know. I'm a little lost. And Peter doesn't want me to talk about Excel, but I would much rather talk about Excel than Kanye West right now.
I think, just to briefly glaze over it, what I've seen from a lot of people is that it's more of like a marketing stunt. And people have said that too about him being like super pro Trump.
You mean Kanye? A marketing stunt? Now hold on a second.
I know, right?
Hold your horses. Take me down to the Old Town Road.
All right. I don't like any of this anymore.
I saw that too. I mean, he did put out a new song, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't listen to it yet. I have a fluctuating appreciation for Kanye's music based on Kanye being Kanye. Yeah, I would, in some ways, love to give him like credit. Like, oh, what an interesting thing that you like said you were going to run for president in 2020. And then you're like, oh, I'll use it as a marketing stunt. I'm like, yeah, I would love to give you like some credit for that. But
and then what Paris Hilton did too was as a joke, was like, I'm running for president. Honestly, though, like if that was for realsies, I would trust Paris Hilton over the current administration and Kanye and Joe Biden any day. And that's pretty fucking bad to say.
I don't know why. Okay. I was watching
Tinkerbell's the first lady, because
oh my God,
that's it. She'll probably be more of a humanitarian than Melania Trump ever was. Kim Petras opens the inaugural concert. Listen, we're already substantially better off in this hypothetical situation than we are right now.
I've run 100 hypothetical situations we'd be better off in than what we're currently in. I was watching The Office the other night, and there was a line. I love The Office as a repeat show to have on in the background. I was watching one of the episodes, and it's the cold open, and Kevin is talking only in like very, very short sentences. Like, he's not saying full sentences. He's like, I can talk in less words and people still understand me, so I'm just gonna like speak quicker, get out the same idea, but use less words. Like, that's his thought. And then everybody's like, yeah, you can't do that. And he finally like gives up, and he's like, fine, you know what, I'll talk normally. And then it cuts to him like in his confessional, and he's like, when me president, they see. And I'm like,
oh God.
There has been this like conceived notion, not preconceived, but just conceived. It's been conceived through, it's a notion about the presidency that we elect our best person, we elect our smartest person, we elect somebody who is our greatest citizen to take on that role, because we know like what kind of responsibilities it takes. We know what it can do to that person. We know what Obama went through and how it aged him so much in the 8 years that he was doing it. And we see those kind of things and we go, yeah, you know what? It does take that. It takes that kind of person to be the president of the United States. And now we're just like, I guess fucking Joe Biden, fine. Like, like we went so far from like, this job needs to be taken so seriously. We need to put our best people in it. We need to have experts. We need to have people that are ready to work really hard at this role. And it's just like, man, how we just were like, fuck it, anybody. Paris Hilton, you think that you can
like,
be president?
Let's go.
Let's try it out.
The
man.
new national, the flag, it's pink. Tinkerbell's on there instead of the 50 stars. Let's go. I'm down.
Like, do you think that, like, because I have a feeling that, like, she would go in there and just be like, I'm just going to do the fucking job. Like,
well, that's the thing about, like, Paris Hilton is that, like, she said before, like, that's just a brand. It's a character. It's not really her. Right. And I mean, that's the thing with a lot of these, like, celebrities, especially when they were coming up in, like, the early 2000s, late 1990s, when everything was reality show city, those who are still relevant or are still making some type of money and is still, you know, we hear about them every so often. It's because that's a character they play. That isn't, like, their real self. Mm-hmm. And, like, because if Paris Hilton was, like, that much of, like, a stereotypical bimbo, like she wouldn't be as relevant now. I mean, like we even see like the Kardashians and we're like, oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
There's that. But behind the scenes, like, I mean, Kourtney Kardashian, well, she's the only one out of all of them who has a fucking 4-year degree and she speaks French fluently. Like, I can't fucking speak even my normal English language half the time, I feel. She can speak too.
I mean, check all of our recordings. You'll find out that Lizzie and I have a very limited range of the English language.
I mean, the same thing with, I mean, even Kim Kardashian, you know, she's going to do like law stuff.
She's in law school. Like,
I mean, again, like it's just showing you that, you know, these people aren't that dumb. I mean, is their presence annoying and are they always using it for the better good? No. But at the same time, if they were to hypothetically, not Kanye though, get into these power positions
where you're like going through the list and it's like, thank you for all of your, not you, hard work.
Yes. But if they were to be in like these higher positions, I feel like people would be more confident. And I feel like going back to like, you know, the original presidential election that got us into this fucking hellhole in which we are in, people were thinking that too. And because people overall were just, you know, racist assholes and also hate women and everybody who isn't a white man. And we're like, this is who gets me. Because I mean, Reagan, I think it was Reagan, was a movie star during his time.
Not a very famous one, but
right,
a movie star.
Movie star.
Yeah.
But I think it's this right. I think it's that same mindset. And I feel like people nowadays have that same like ideology, even though like it's been proven that that's not how it really works. But I think people are holding out for hope.
Yeah.
But I really would just rather, I know that everyone's like, oh, all politicians are corrupt. Whatever. At this point, is get them back in and then we'll start moving back towards the way we should have been moving. To the left, like cha-cha slide, like to the left, so we can fix it.
To the left now, y'all.
Yeah.
One vote this time.
Then you bunny hop forward.
My puns.
But 6 feet away from the other person.
Of course. Peter's asking what our national anthem would be if Paris becomes president.
Whatever. What's her one single? I don't know what it is.
Stars.
Stars something?
Yeah.
That one.
Something like that. She also was a DJ for a minute. I don't think anything was plugged in. Peter says, Doug the Pug for president. And like, yeah. But again, it's like we're working from such a deficit. Like,
really? I mean, to the fact that, I mean, we just rolled back, you know, the biggest thing where, what is it? Michael's? The one craft store?
Hobby Lobby?
Hobby Lobby, they rolled back. Yeah, so that was recently, as of today, where they rolled back those religious freedoms for birth control coverage. Mm-hmm. if your employer disagrees with it. And that was like a huge thing during the Obama era that was passed. So it's really like we're just kind of hitting reset and we're going back to like Bush era politics. So if we could just not do that for the next 4 years again. Otherwise, Lizzie's looking for an out of the country job once I get my master's in the winter.
Yeah. Like, we knew that all this stuff was on. I've been thinking this week about how I've had a lot of time to think being unemployed, sitting around.
Oh my God.
Just building my new computer and thinking, and just like, I had a man tell me when I was fairly upset. I was fairly upset when Trump won, and sitting there thinking like, oh, what's going to happen over the next 4 years? Like, this can be really terrible. Like, a lot of bad stuff can happen. And he was like, I don't understand. Like, everything should be fine. Like, it's not going to be that bad. And I'm like, and now I'm unemployed. It's a global pandemic that the U.S. is having the worst response to. 40 million people are unemployed. We are rolling back all of these freedoms and healthcare and all these things that we were able to accomplish that were beneficial to a lot of people in this country. And it's like, I wish I could just like talk to him right now and just be like, hey, man, bad stuff happened.
So this didn't age well.
This didn't age well. Like, let's look at this note here.
It didn't age well. It's like, look at these things.
There's always a tweet. Yeah, and it's frustrating to think back to that and like, man, there are people that like didn't see this coming, and here we are like seeing it coming.
And we're like, hey, we don't want to be like told you so, but also like we've been telling you so for all this time. So,
and like those are the people you have to convince which way to vote. And it's like, all right, cool, man. I know that you didn't agree with me when I said a lot of bad stuff could happen, but I've got this Joe Biden here.
This whole Joe Biden, this whole creepy Uncle Joe Biden.
I've got this Joe Biden to present to you, and I hope that you like it more than you disliked the thing before. What? I just don't know. Like, that argument sucks. And so back to Kanye, I guess it's like, he says, I'm going to run for president. And whether it's real or not, there are probably some people out there who are like, yeah, sounds fine. Sounds okay. And
well, and a lot of people that I've seen tweet wise are saying like, oh, if you don't vote for Kanye, you support everything Biden does. It's like, we don't support everything that Biden does. But remember where we were 4 years ago, where we were like, who's the lesser of two evils? Yeah. This is where we're back at. And if we don't fucking learn from the last time, then it's going to be real, real bad.
Yeah. It's like,
we're going to go, you know how all the rockabillys are like, oh my God, I was born in the wrong time. It's going to happen now. And then they're not going to have a good time. All those girls in the cute dresses that are way too like overpriced for the material that they are, that I can't afford because the material's cheap. They're going to be like, oh, now I'm oppressed more. Bitch, yeah. What do you think the 50s was?
Turns out it wasn't just fashion. It was also oppression and racism and misogyny.
And just everything really bad.
Yeah, surprisingly. It's the same argument, but I hate that people on the side that are trying to make things better are making it, where it's like, oh, well, we have these two terrible people to vote for. It's like, there is a strong difference between a Joe Biden and a Donald Trump. There is a strong difference there. And like, there is like some issues and there are some problems. And I can understand if you are unhappy about Joe Biden, but like, Joe Biden is 100% not going to roll back your healthcare now. Joe Biden is not going to roll back trans rights, for example. Like, he's not going to do those kinds of things. So if you're having this conversation, it's like, stop tweeting and like do some research, have some conversations with people, talk with people in real life, get off Twitter. I fucking hate Twitter. And like, you can understand that like, these are not equal things. It shouldn't be that like, we are so upset at somebody like Joe Biden that we are we're so upset about the idea that we would vote for Joe Biden that all of a sudden we're going to say, fine, we're just going to vote for Kanye instead. Like that is so weird.
I mean, here, I would like to preface too, obviously, if you haven't listened to us beforehand, me and Brian are like pretty like avid like Bernie supporters and have been for a real long. I mean, at least I don't know for Brian, but like when Bernie first ran in the original election, I was like deaf for him.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not like,
we're not stoked on
we're
Biden.
not neo-libs here.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's, there is a lot of my friends are Bernie supporters. A lot of my friends are posting on stuff. Peter's like, who are you guys again? We're just, we're the emo social club, man. We're just like really pro Biden. No.
I don't like any of I didn't like that.
It felt bad to say. It felt bad on the ears. We are there's a lot of people who are because they're such big Bernie fans and because they are like, we could have it better, which is true, are just so like vocally against Biden, even though like we have to understand that Bernie didn't win the nomination, not by like a little bit. Like it was, I mean, I'd have to double check these numbers, but I think that it was like, I think that it was closer during Hillary and Bernie than it was this time. If I'm not mistaken.
In certain states it was, but overall it was kind of like I'm like catching up to you. I'm catching up to you. It was like a big back and forth. Even recently, God, who was it? It was one of the states had like just finished counting everything after a couple of months. I don't remember what state it was, but Bernie was the primary winner of that, not Biden or Warren or anybody. So that still says, there's a good amount of people finally like kind of coming around to that type of ideology. And I think, obviously not this election, but I think, 4.5 years really down the road, I think we'll finally start to gather enough support to be like, okay, like we did halfway better this time. Now let's do the rest of that half, please.
3/4.
Exactly. Because depending on whoever gets in office, either way, everyone's going to be like, okay, but I want it to be more progressive. I don't want neo-lib. I want it to keep going to the left. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the biggest thing, because even with certain things under Bernie, people are still like, that's not progressive enough for me.
Correct.
And I think the biggest joke people were saying was like, oh, you think that I'm going to stop complaining about things once Bernie's in office? This was like, months and months ago. Mm-hmm. They're like, I'm still going to complain about these and these things if they're not done, because that's more that, what we're looking for.
Yeah.
So there's also that to keep in mind. And I think we have to realize that we have to kind of everything is going to take time. So we have to be cognizant and be like, we have to slowly move things around, which sucks, but that's how things kind of work.
Politics works. Like the time that you have not taken to make changes to our government, to be involved in politics, means that somebody else who was involved in it got to do whatever they wanted to do. And there's a really good chance that you and that person don't agree with one another. So it's important to understand that, like, while you are not involved, somebody else is heavily involved. And if you want to be able to vote against them, if you want to have opinions that they don't agree with, then you have to stay involved, no matter who wins. This isn't like my person didn't win, so therefore I can check out. This is my person didn't win, and I was going to hold them accountable anyway. So you need to hold your elected officials accountable at all times, like we're doing right now, kind of with all the protests and things. It's like we are holding this government accountable for what's happening. We are pushing back against police brutality, and that because not just this government, we are pushing back against this government. So you have to do that whether your guy wins or not. And I think people like kind of forget about that when they get so like upset that they didn't get their candidate to win, the potential to win, to get the chance to win, to then maybe win in the future. It's weird how many levels there are, but it's like you are still going to have to show up. Like, I think a lot of people, and you can quote me on this. Somebody clip this.
Oh God.
I think a lot of people hope that their person wins because then they can kind of like take a back seat a little bit. Not everyone that I know, but like a lot of people, I'm like, why are you upset? You weren't going to fucking go out there and do anything anyway. I'm not saying because I am. I'm not saying like I'm right in this situation. Like I'm out here doing all this shit, but I'm at least saying like, if I'm going to be there holding people accountable, I'm going to do that whether I win or lose, because that's my right. I have to take ownership of what's happening around me, or move at the end of my degree.
Yeah, or
leave
that
the country at the end of my degree, which I still won't get. Yeah, so
we all just make a pack to go, and we just buy, like our friend Alex Smith said, we're all just gonna put our money together and buy a house and live in it.
Yep.
But out of the country.
Is it possible to like take a stake of land and be like, hey, we're a different country now?
I think that's called a cult, but yeah.
Well, okay. Let's go down this path. The emo social cult.
I don't know.
But you heard it and you didn't hate it, did you?
I feel okay. Here's the thing this is the thing that would bother me, because we are an alternative music scene that's meant for dark things. Do you remember the 90s? Because you were more alive during that time than I was, because I was a baby. I was a little baby pretty much. Yeah. And if we all remember how like people were like the satanic panic of like goths, basically, of like the 90s and early 2000s, it'd be the same fucking thing if we started a cult and called it emo social cult. They're gonna think we're like killing people when we're like, no, we're just trying to live here, and then they're like, you're brainwashing people. Again, I've been listening to my murder podcasts, but it's like if you think about what that comes to mind is the godforsaken site Vampire Freaks, which is still around for some weird reason.
I thought they shut it down.
No, it's still around. I remember. God. Okay, so I was searching for.
Get off Twitter. Get off Vampire Freaks.
Please get off Vampire Freaks. That is the first and foremost. Delete your account. Maybe just delete your entire computer. Just yeet it out the window. You're an adult. You're a whole ass adult. You were probably like Brian's age. Stop that.
47 years old.
No, you're not. Shut up.
You are 47 years old and you still call yourself a vampire freak. You fool. You fool. Return. Take your last Hot Topic purchase back. Return it. Get your money back. You shop at H&M like another type of person.
No, they probably have the Hot Topic credit card.
There's a credit. Oh God.
When they restructured everything like a few years ago, they're like, "You want a credit card?" I'm like, "No." Do I want to show people how insane I am?
Like,
no, they have to sign up for themselves.
I use this card and I get points for discounts at Hot Topic.
You know, you need to get that Funko Pop.
Fuck that. Oh, I did order the Danger Days Gerard Way.
Oh, I bet you fucking did.
It completes my collection, okay?
Oh, God.
Anyway.
All I'm trying to do is find these old trip pants that I had when I was younger.
There is.
And they had the zips on it and they were deep purple. And I had to get rid of them because I used to be like a size 15, 13 in pants. And now I'm a size 3. So I couldn't fit into them anymore. And now I can't find them. And I am very upset about it because those were like my favorite pair of jeans.
You really didn't have to follow up. I had to get rid of them with reasons. You just, like, everybody understood when you said I had to get rid of them. Like, yeah, that's correct. You did.
No, they're cute. I don't know what you're talking about. Please look at my style now as a 25-year-old compared to my 15, 16-year-old stuff. We have grown, but we still have these staples.
We got older, but we're still young.
Yeah. Anyway, going back to the cult, thinking about the Vampire Clan, aka Drew Filler down in Florida, who was like playing like Dungeons and Dragons and like the Vampire Dungeons and Dragons thing. I don't know what it's called.
Caves of Draconis.
Oh, Masquerade. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then he went and like butchered his ex-girlfriend's parents to death. And then was like, cool, now we're vampires. Could we drunk their blood? That's what people are going to associate us with. Even though we're not going to, I hope nobody does that. Even though none of us are going to do.
I feel like you're going to take this and you're going to be like, what do I want people to associate us with? And you're going to make sure that's what they associate us with.
I'd be like, okay, so here's the thing. We're not this. We're just this. We're a bunch of fucking nerds living
I feel like in
our own little cult state thing.
I feel like every time we start doing an episode, I have to remind you this is being recorded and will be released to a media platform. Like, people might hear this.
That I'm just talking about a insane vampire murder that I'm not condoning.
It's situations that happened before but aren't happening now with us. But I might start making some emo social cult t-shirts.
Oh God.
Don't even tell me that wouldn't be cool. How do we get from Kanye to this?
The transition. Because you started talking, oh no, because of the cult thing. Because some of my friends from work, we were talking about starting a cult in like Jesus. Wyoming or Montana, something like that. But that'd be a separate one.
A separate
We've
cult.
already talked about, we're not going to publicly talk about that because we have our own
oh boy
stipulations about that. This, we can have a fashion line and it's fine.
Oh boy. It's a fashion line. It's like Bayside is a cult, you know? It's like that. It's on that
Is
theme.
it?
No, Bayside, like they had hoodies that said Bayside is a cult.
Oh, I was never a big Bayside person.
You know, I wasn't either, but I really like a couple of their songs. Devotion and Desire, Duality, like good songs.
You know, like the singles, the hits.
Singles. You know what?
The usual.
You know what? Those two songs.
Those whole two songs.
There's a couple other ones I like.
Well,
too.
It's like when you're talking to somebody about Say Anything, you're like, yeah, those like 4 songs.
Baby Girl, I'm a Blur, Shiksa, parentheses Girlfriend. Those are 2 songs off the second record of 38 songs that you're like, oh, these 2 fucking hit. The rest of them are like kind of hit or miss.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that.
You know, and it really just be like that sometimes, but it's fine. Anyway, so another bands we don't know. Is somebody here to fucking tell us what Title Fight and like the discourse of it is? Because I've been wondering for this whole last week and I don't fucking get it. All I know is that they played Coachella once and there's that iconic photo of somebody trying to crowd surf and a bunch of Coachella chicks being like, oh my God, what are you doing? And that's it. I group them in the brocore music culture, and I don't listen to that very often. So if that's it, I don't know. I went above and over my head. Sorry to Title Fight fans if that's offensive. Either. I don't know.
They're not here.
If you listen to it, I don't know. Someone explain Title Fight to me, though. Or we'll just bring somebody on the pod to explain it for us because I have no idea. That's the only thing I've been seeing on Twitter on both my personal and the podcast. And I straight up don't get it.
I think it's weird that the question basically is, what is this band? And it's like, well, there are a lot of bands like that. But it's like, what is this band is such a weird question when it's like, oh, it's just like some random kind of brocore pop punk band. It's like, but
I thought they were more hardcore because people associate La Dispute with them. And I'm like, well, La Dispute isn't pop punk.
This would be a really good feature on episodes of like, let's talk about a band that neither one of us has listened to.
We're actually going to do the reverse of literally every other fucking music podcast. Instead of reviewing all these bands we've listened to, we're just not going to listen to it. And we're just going to gather things from the internet and be like, is this what this band is?
Is this what bands are? Please let us know in the comments below.
Let us know. I have no fucking idea.
But what are band?
I mean, I feel like it's like trying to explain 100 Gex to people nowadays.
Which I still haven't listened to.
It's basically like scene. It's scene core.
You know what? I did listen to one song and I was like, yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a bunch of people now that are like, this isn't, this isn't music.
Yeah.
It's like, listen, do you not like fun?
Yeah.
That's why you're telling me you don't like fun.
Yeah. Like, I guess I don't really know where a lot of the hate's coming from. Although I don't really follow hate for bands anyway. I
just kind of see it and I'm like, well, did they do something bad or do you just like hate them this much? I don't understand.
I don't know. Why is Title Fight?
Why is
better? Why is Gamora? I think it would be really interesting to just be like, here's the name of a band. Tell us about this band that you've never heard of before, that you have no knowledge of, and is like being talked about. You're like, oh, but I heard of this band. They're called. I'm looking around my desk for a name. Watchface. So Watchface. Yeah, this band. They're a little bit hardcore with some electronic influences. They're kind of like old Attack with like auto-tuned vocals. No screaming, just like some heavy riffage. They do a cover of Cher's "Believe."
Oh God!
Right, but it's
you're really pulling it out here.
But like, all right, that's a band now. Oh boy. Well, thank you for this short episode of the Emo Social Club podcast. We'll see you next week for more. Check us out on the streams. Follow us at emosocialclub.tv. And I'll play the outro and we'll stop recording.
And remember, next week we have our friend James Shotwell on the pod, so make sure you stop by. Here's more about his cool new pod coming out.
Yeah, make sure you stop by. And from all of us here at the Emo Social Club podcast, I'm Brian.
I'm Lizzie.
And goodbye.